okay that. So we're going to start in Virasana. And depending on the flexibility in your knees, you might want a blanket. But I am going to ask that you try with a blanket before you go straight to the block. So knees hip distance apart, feet a little wider than your hips. Take your blanket, unless you don't need one, and place it between. Take your hands and reach behind and grab the flesh of your calves and kind of split them straight back as you sit back. Grab underneath your ankles and kind of lift each foot up one at a time and kind of pull them back. And then reach underneath your knees. Lift the knee up and kind of pull that forward. The toes do point back, so you're not sitting up on your toes. They're pointing straight back. And again, I know this can be extremely uncomfortable for some people. So if you need a block, but I want you to feel some resistance. Like, I don't want you to be completely able to relax and do it yet. And take your hands, place them on the front of your thighs, press the flesh forward. So use the hands to press it forward as you lengthen through the crown of your head. And soften your eyes. And if you are able to close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes. So notice the sensation that you feel. Notice where you feel it. Perhaps it's in the front of the ankles. Perhaps it's in the knees. That's usually my go-to place. Maybe it's in the hip. This is an internal rotation. So wherever you feel your mind being drawn to from the get-go, just allow your mind to stay there. And then notice your breath with the sensation. So what is the shape of your breath in this slight or not so slight tension or compression or discomfort? And what happens if you lengthen your exhale? Keeping your mind slightly on the place that it's being drawn to. Then really feeling the exhale. Notice any tension in the jaw. Allowing the tongue to rest at the roof of your mouth with the tip of your tongue touching right where your gum and your teeth meet. And the breath coming in and out through the nostrils. And just notice this interplay between sensation and breath. Notice what happens when your mind gets drawn more to the sensation, to your breath, and then vice versa. What happens when you take your mind from the sensation to your exhale? Start to press the front of your feet into the floor. Press the shin bones into the floor. And slowly start to elevate off the floor a little bit. So you won't come completely off your blanket, but feeling the sensation of pressing down through the fronts of your feet, the shins, the knees to let your sit bones come slightly off the floor. And then hold it for just one more breath. Again, noticing what happens to the breath. And then let go. Return to the breath and the sensation, and just notice, did that change anything? And we'll do this one more time. So start to press the fronts of your feet into the floor, your ankles, your shin, your knees, and allow that to lift your sit bones slightly off the surface. Hopefully you feel the sensation of your quads engaging, and they're engaging in a lengthened position. So this might be a really interesting sensation. And then release back in again. And return to the breath. And just notice, did this change anything? And then bring your hands forward, come forward to hands and knees, and just move the blanket off to the side for now. So coming into a tabletop position, tuck your toes under and just allow that to kind of move into the shins. Probably feels good after that long time in plantar flexion. And come into a downward facing dog. So spread your fingers wide, first fingers parallel or wrist parallel with the front edge of your mat. So just press back into downward facing dog. And no effort to do like the perfect dog here. More or less just breathe. If you want to move a little bit, you can move a little bit for a few breaths. I'm noticing again sensation. Where does your mind move to when you're in a downward facing dog? You notice it in the hips, in the low back, shoulders, wrists, hamstrings, backs of the calves. Noticing how close or far the heels are away from the floor. Noticing if the knees are bent. And notice what you notice. And then lower back down onto your knees. It's time, keep your toes tucked under and really work on making the toes as tucked as much as you can, even perhaps reaching back and grabbing the pinky toe and pulling it forward. And start to reach your sit bones straight back. So you're not rounding your spine yet. You're kind of moving with a neutral spine. So there's a slight back bend in your lower back. And keeping the heels up, toes tucked, start to walk the hands back slowly. So just notice as you start to take your hips closer to your heels, notice the sensation. And moving kind of with your own awareness, again, using the breath. So as you start to move into areas where you feel kind of resistance, notice what happens to your breath. The natural tendency of the breath when we sense fear, when the body senses, that this is a region that we're not used to, is that the breath will kind of pick up its pace or shorten. So just notice your breath and use it as a guide as you continue to walk your hands closer to your knees. And as your hands come closer to your knees, your sit bones are coming closer to your heels. So we're going into dorsiflexion. And oftentimes in forward folds, this inability to dorsiflex, which is the deep flexion in your ankle, is a sign that your calf muscles are really tight and can sometimes be something that inhibits folding forward. So as you come as close to your knees as you can with your hands, push your hands down and lift your knees off the floor. So push back, now allowing your spine to flex. And the knees coming off the floor, pressing your thighs towards your belly. Drop the weight into your heels. So we're coming into a pretty deep dorsiflexion and just kind of, again, having respect for I work on dorsiflexion a lot. It's a really important thing to be able to do. So I work on it a lot. It works in combination with your ability to hip hinge, which is also something that we're doing here. And as you come closer or take your hands closer, maybe start to rock your heels back and as if you could lift your toes off the ground. And they probably won't come off the ground, but as if you could lift your toes off the ground. You're gonna feel a sensation in the front of your shin. And this muscle is highly connected to knee pain, and mostly because we don't use it. So you may find that this is an interesting sensation, at the same time taking your heels towards the ground. And then slowly walk back forward. As you do, put the knees down. And again, walk your hands back forward to quadruped or hands and knees, and let your toes point back. And if it feels good, you can kind of tap the front of your feet on the floor. First, fingers parallel. Spread your fingers wide. Wrist align with the front edge of your mat and go back into downward facing dog again. Come high up onto your toes. Bend your knees as if you were in that position that we were just in. So shins are parallel to the floor, pushing the heels towards the back of your mat. So allowing your ankles to flex deeply. And again, what does it feel like? You won't be able to, but as if you could lift your toes off the ground. Lift and spread your sit bones a little bit more. So your belly is basically resting on the tops of your thighs, remembering your breath is your friend. And keeping the sit bones lifted, move towards straightening your legs. Maybe they straighten, maybe they don't. You're still on the balls of your feet. And then slowly walk your hands back towards your feet. Knees bend. Straight forward over your second and third toe. Fingertips to your hip crease. Tone your lower belly and lift up. Take your blanket and we're going to roll it. So roll it with, I always think of Pet Detective, laces in. So roll it with the laces in if you have laces. And make a roll. And place it at the back of your mat. And take your blocks and place them off at either side of your mat. And then come to where your toes are on your blanket, hip distance apart, and your heels are off your blanket. So we're not in high heels, we're in high toes. Press your heels down into the floor. So really press down and lift the fronts of your thighs. So that sensation that we created when you were on your shins and you're pressing the front of your feet and your shins, you felt your quad muscles engage to lift your sit bones up. Feel if you can create that same sensation. Allow your hands to drop down beside your body. Dig the heels down, lift the fronts of the thighs, and breathe. If it helps to close your eyes, you can. So a soft inhale through your nose, really light. taking it deep into the lungs. And then a soft, long exhale out through the nose. Press the heels down. Bend both knees forward. So open the eyes again. Bend both knees forward. Look down at your knees and push your knees forward over your toes. And you may find that your hips move forward too. Allow that to happen. Lift your right toes off the blanket if you can. So lift the toes. And then as if you were dragging your right heel back, drag it back, feel the back of your thigh muscle. And then press down through your right heel to straighten your right leg, keeping that tone in your right thigh, and then straighten your left leg. So notice the difference in your hamstrings right to left. And then again, bend your knees, letting the knees go forward of the toes. So deepening your dorsiflexion. Lift the toes on your left foot. And as if you were dragging your left heel back, push it back. Feel the back of your thigh. And then press down through your left heel to start to straighten your left leg first. And then allow your right leg to straighten. And then can you create that sensation in both thighs? So pushing as if you could drag both of your heels back. Push the heels down. Feel the fronts of your thighs firm. Lift your toes. Slow down your breath. And being strong in your body, but remaining soft in your breath. Using your breath as a guide, knowing when the pace quickens or it's high in your chest, probably need to tone it down a bit. Release the toes back down. Bend the knees forward over the toes. Keep the knees where they are and start to hinge your hips straight back. So coming more or less into a chair pose. You have your blocks there. Grab your blocks and take them shoulder width apart. Press the heels down. Drag the heels back, push the knees forward. Keeping your spine parallel to the floor. Start to push your right heel back a little bit more. So as if you were dragging it back, feel the tone of the back of your leg and start to straighten from your right leg first. Your left knee may or may not straighten. So straighten. Lift the right toes. Bend the right knee forward. Bring the fingertips to the floor or to the blocks. Push your knees forward again. Send the hip creases back a little bit more and bring your hands back to your block. Start to push your left heel down into the floor, and as if you were dragging it back, push back. Feel the back of your hamstring turn on. Lift your left toes as you start to straighten your left knee. Your right knee may or may not straighten. Where you feel tension, breathe into it. Where you feel resistance, breathe into it. Slow down your exhale to soften. Bend both knees. Lift your fingertips to the block. Press your knees forward. Send your hip creases back. Both hands down to the block. Both heels press back. Straighten both legs. So spine is parallel to the floor. Walk your blocks about a foot forward. Press your heels down, lift your toes off the blanket. Firm the fronts of your thighs. Press your heels down. Maybe take your block down to the next level. Firm the fronts of your thighs, press the tops of your leg bones back. Toes can stay lifted, keep dragging the heels back. Block can come down to the next level. Push your hands into the block, start to drop your head between your hands. So modified, shorter, downward facing dog with heels lifted. Press the tops of the leg bones back, firm the fronts of the thighs. You have the option to stay here. You have the option to use your breath and your own awareness, maybe lowering your hands to the ground, maybe walking forward. One kind of awareness at a time, coming closer to your normal length of your downward facing dog. Heels continue to press towards the floor and toes as if they're lifting off the blanket. Lower the knees to the ground. Take the tops of your feet to the blanket and sit back. A little stretch in the fronts of your ankles. And you can back up to the point that it's more comfortable for you. Close your eyes and come back into your breath. So dorsiflexion. It's one of the things that we lose, especially when we're told to never let our knees go over our toes when we do lunges. Dorsiflexion is extremely important in squats. It's extremely important in knee health and hip health, and can contribute a lot to lower back pain, hip pain, knee pain. And the lack of flexion in the hip. That fascial line goes all the way up from the bottom of your feet, the backs of the legs, the backs of the thighs, into the hips, crosses the hips, and then comes up the other side of the spine. Come forward. Bring your feet in front of your blanket. Spread your fingers wide and return to your downward facing dog. And just notice. And slowly walk your hands back towards your feet. As you pass your blocks, kind of take them off to the sides of your mat again. Come up to your fingertips, Ardha Uttanasana, a half forward fold. From the tops of your thighs, from the backs of your thighs, and fold. Grab the opposite elbow with your hands. And if you are not able to be in this forward fold with knees bent, use your blocks. So practice with knees straight, even if that means that you're not in a full forward fold. If you're holding onto your elbows, release your elbows, fingertips into your hip crease, lift up halfway. Tone your belly, lift all the way up. And we're going to come back into our little prop. So heels on the floor, toes on the blanket. Bend the knees forward, send the hips back. Bring your weight onto your left foot and come up onto your right toe. So lifting the right heel off the floor. Continue to send your left hip back and your left knee forward. Maybe play with the idea of lifting your right foot up for just a second and then bringing the heel to the ground and walk forward. So now the back leg is straight and your right knee is bent. So bend the right knee. We are going to keep it over our heel and press your left heel down. So we're lengthening another muscle. So with the knee bent, it's one muscle. With the knee straight, it's a separate muscle. So press the heel down. Continue to square the hips and the chest forward. Move into your body and sense what you're feeling. Heel pressing down and back, so that brings some firmness to the front of the thigh. And as you are able, you can kind of ease that front foot forward. So using your mind, your body, your breath. So mindful movement. We're not trying to rush past anything. We're staying in our own level of comfort. You can kind of occasionally test the lifting of the toes and then letting go. And then when you come to your final kind of step forward, start to lean forward and bend your right knee more. Press your left heel down, take your blocks and place them on either side of your front foot or perhaps in front of your front foot. Spine parallel to the floor. Press the left heel down, firm the left thigh, lift the left toes, walk your right foot forward until you can straighten the knee and then flex your left ankle. So the toes come up, the heel stays down. Push the heel down and drag it back. Keep pressing the left heel back. Maybe right heel comes off the floor and comes a little bit further forward. As you bring your right foot down to the floor, lift your left heel off the ground. And now bring the heel to the blanket and the toe to the ground. Walk the blocks further forward. Press the left heel into the blanket. Straighten the right leg, reach your head, chest forward. Drag your right heel back as you push the left ball bounce of the toe into the ground. Inhale. Maybe stay upright, maybe fold. Keep pressing left heel, left toe down. Press the hands into the block, come up halfway, bend your right knee. So right knee above your right ankle joint. Bring the fingertips to the block. Press your left heel into the blanket more. Reach your hands back behind your hip. Press left heel back. So feeling the front of your left thigh firm. Right knee still above your right heel. Rise up. Press the left heel into the blanket. You feel hamstring, quad of the back leg. Use your breath. Nice slow breaths. Keep your right knee bent. Press it forward of the toes and step your left foot up beside your right. So coming into chair pose. Bring the fingertips down to touch the tops of the blocks. Knees forward, press your heels back. Reach the arms back up. Hands to the blocks, press down through the heels, forward fold. Use your hands, press them down in the block, come up halfway. Fingertips to your hip creases, come up all the way. So you're probably going to want to take your blocks back about halfway and then come back to your blanket again. We've got the other side. So toes on the blanket, we're in high toe heels, high toe, low heels. So feet about hip distance apart. Start to bend the knees forward as far over your toes as you can comfortably, and then send the hips back. So sitting at a level that's comfortable for you and your ankles, but still having that sense of hip hinging. So kind of like chair pose, you're not upright, you're hinging. Shift the weight onto your right foot and come up onto your left toes. So notice the tendency for that right hip to pop out. Keep it in line with you don't want it to pop out. It will be slightly wider than your knee, but not much. And then can you bring the full amount of weight, staying with knee bent, to hover, left foot off, step it forward, and straighten the back leg. So finding a distance where you can straighten your back leg and push the heel to the ground. So your stance may be further back, maybe further forward than mine. And you're going to use awareness of mind, body, breath to continue to move that front leg a little bit forward as you can, keeping the back leg strong. So as you press the heel towards the floor, notice what happens in the front of your leg. As you press the heel towards the floor, notice what's going on in the back of your leg. Start to ease the front foot forward, only to the extent that you can keep the back heel on the ground. So it's going to be different for everyone. You're really pressing it down. Keeping the front knee bent, start to fold and take your hands onto your blocks. Press down through the right heel. Notice if you look at your back heel, notice if your heel is in line with your second toe or if it's in or out. Try to keep it all in one kind of plane. Walk your left foot a little bit forward to the extent that you can straighten your left leg. And then press the right heel down and come onto your left heel. So toes come off the ground. So keep pressing the right heel down. Maybe I'm going to lift the left leg off and come a little bit further forward. And you might get a little cramp in your hamstring, especially if you do it one-handed, as I just did. And bring your left foot to the ground as you come onto your right toes. And then step the heel to the blanket, toes on the ground. Walk the blocks forward, press down through the blocks, lift the left foot, and come as far forward as you can comfortably. So Parsvottanasana is what we're doing here. Press your left heel down. In fact, bend your knee forward a little bit of your toe. Press your heel down to straighten your leg. Lift up halfway, stretch your spine. Maybe staying with spine parallel to the floor, maybe folding. Keep pressing the right heel down, maybe even lifting your toes off the ground. So the ball of the toes are staying down, but the toes themselves perhaps come off the floor. Inhale, come up halfway. Bend your left knee. Come onto your fingertips. We're using a little bit of core work here, so our belly is on our thigh. Really press through your right heel and firm the front of your right thigh. Your heel is still on the blanket. Reach your hands back, reach your heel back, head forward. Slow down your breath. So notice how hard you're working by finding your rhythm of your breath. Can you continue to work hard with a slow breath and then rise up. Keep reaching your heel into the blanket. Keep firming the front of the thigh. Keep your left knee bent above your ankle joint. Start to bend the knee a little further forward. And then step right foot up beside left. So chair pulse. Bend the knees deep enough to touch the fingertips to the block. Knees go further forward, hips sink deeper, arms up. Press through your heels, straighten your legs, fold forward. Hands can either be on the block, maybe elbows come to the block, or just letting elbows hang. So being where you can keep your knees straight and find the hip hinge. So if that's with hands up on block, stay there. So today we're working towards straightening our knees, and even if it's up on fingertips. So where can you be with knees straight? Bring the fingertips to your hip creases, tone your lower belly, and lift up. All right. We're going to go into some standing poses in an upright position. We've done a lot of forward folding. So you can stay at the front of your mat, and you might want to have your blocks off to the sides at the front of your mat, but I'm going to show you from a standing position facing you. So feet can be up to hip distance apart or together. Hands on your hips. Firm your right thigh, bend your left knee forward and out to the side. Firm your outer lift, right hip in, and feel the strength that we've been creating in your right leg as you bring your left foot to your inner right thigh. Press foot and thigh together. Reach the tailbone towards the floor, pubic bone up, hands to heart, and reach your arms over your head. So firm the muscles all around. So the work we've been doing translates into this as well. So is the front of your thigh engaged? Is the back of your thigh engaged? Your heel and your ball foot have equal weight. Bring your hands to your chest. Bring your knee forward and down. Shift your weight onto your left leg. Firm the front of the thigh, press the heel down. Define the strength in the leg, bend the right knee forward. Take the knee out to the side, and then grab the ankle and place your foot on thigh or calf or even knee if that's where it's comfortable. And then again, firm the front of your thigh, back of your thigh, tailbone goes down, pubic bone up, arms up. Slow down your breath. Keep the leg strong. Hands to your heart. Bend the knee forward and down. Feet up to hip distance apart. So the wider the feet are, the more length you have in your hamstrings, it's easier to fold. If your feet are together, if you want to try that, that's going to take a little bit more hamstring length. Inhale, reach up, stretch up, gaze up. Exhale, hinge from your hips, fold forward. So keeping your knees straight, you have the blocks there if you need them. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, hands to the floor and step back to plank. Lift the tops of your thighs. Firm the backs of your thighs. Drop your knees to the floor. Keep your toes tucked under. Walk your hands back, sending your hips towards your heels. Walk back, lift up, sit back on your heels. We're not going to be here for long. But just to notice, is this different? Like typically this is really hard for me, and I'm finding it a little bit easier after all that work. Hands to your hips, lift up. Take the hands to the backs of your hips, push the flesh down as you move your hips forward, and just a slight back bend here. So we're not trying to go into full Ustrasana. Just lift the heart, tone the belly, pubic bone towards your navel. So just a little back bend in here. And then send your hips back towards your heels, sit back. Hands to the floor and come back in a downward facing dog. So what's your down dog like? So this is a seated forward fold class, and we're getting there. Shift your weight onto your left leg. Reach your right leg up and back, three-legged dog. Firm the front of your left thigh, really press the top of the thigh back. Maybe even lifting your toes off the ground. Come up onto your toes, look between your thumbs, bend your knee to your nose, and step your right foot to your right thumb. Take your block and place your right hand on your right block. I'm sorry, left hand on your block, right hand to your knee. Press the knee forward. Really press it forward. Shift the weight onto your right foot so much that you can lift and tap your left knee to your right calf. Take it back. A step back to the lunge. Push the knee forward. This time, tap your right knee or your left knee to your left elbow. Take it back. So this time, we're going to take the leg through the hand and the leg. So make sure there's enough room if you need to walk your foot a little further forward. And I'm going to turn to face you so you can see what I'm doing. So your hands are wide. Then bring knee to chest and shoot it through. That's fine. Bring your right foot inside of your left thigh. Here we are. First seated pose. So take a moment to organize. We've done a lot of work for the back, the posterior chain. Are you able to sit on your sit bones, or do you still feel some flexion in your spine? We want the spine long. So if you're still feeling that there's flexion in your spine, use your blanket. It's not cheating, it's smart work, right? So if you feel rounding in your lower back, if you don't have that neutral, slightly extended lumbar spine, prop your sit bones up. Reach the heel forward, firm the top of your thigh. Reach your arms over your head and turn your torso towards your left foot. Reach a little higher. As you exhale, press the back of the thigh towards the floor. Reach the heel forward and start to fold forward. Pause halfway. Arms still up. Reach the heel forward, press the back of the knee towards the floor, firm the front of the thigh, reach a little further forward. So now reaching beyond or towards your front foot. Hi, rush dog. Yeah, bad timing. Keep reaching. And then when you can't sustain it anymore, bring your hands to the floor wherever they are. The hands reach to the floor. Inhale, reach your heart towards your foot, toe towards your head, knee towards the floor, and then drop your head towards your shin. So knowing we're all in different bodies. We all have certain flexibilities that we're good at. We all have certain flexibilities that we have a challenge with. So just noticing where you are today And has the attention, the awareness, has it made any change? Do you feel perhaps you're just a little closer? Bend your elbows, bringing them back towards your hips. Hands on either side of your right knee, press up. Reach your arms over your head, twist towards your right knee. Bring your left hand down to the ground behind your hip and stretch your left side even further. So your right hand is down, your left hand is reaching up. Keep that length and start to reach the side body over, bringing either the wrist, the forearm, or the elbow inside of your left knee. Press a little bit more, rotate your heart and your ribs and your lungs up towards the sky. Reach, right arm up, stretch a little bit more, and as you exhale, reach, right hand towards left foot. Keep rotating heart and lungs up towards the sky. Reach the right arm up as if you're reaching for something out of the sky. Lift up. Bring your right knee back up, so foot back to the floor. Left hand comes back to the block. Push the right foot into the ground, lift your hips, bend your knee, take it back to the back of the mat, both hands to the ground, and step back into downward facing dog. Shift the weight onto your right foot. Reach the left leg up and back, three-legged dog. Firm the top of your right thigh and perhaps even lift your right toes off the ground. Lift up onto the toes, so lift the heels, gaze between your thumbs, bend your knee towards your chest, and then step your left foot to your left thumb, maybe even taking a little wider. Block under your right hand. So you're lifting up a little bit to come a little bit further away from the floor, making this kind of squat thing a little easier. Left hand to your knee, press it forward. So you have to stabilize the left hip in order to take the weight to the foot. Then bring your right knee to touch your right calf. So you're still staying in kind of that crunch, and then step back. Keep pushing the knee forward. This time, taking your left or right knee to your right elbow. The weight is on your left foot. Step it back. So look between those 2 points. So we're taking your nose or your knee straight towards your chest. So knee to chest. Take the foot through and then come into a seated position. So now left knee is up, right leg is forward, turn the knee out, taking your left foot inside of your right thigh. Toe pointing up, maybe even more towards the head. Make sure you're seated on something so where you can find a nice long spine. Reach your arms over your head. Reach the heel forward, toe towards head, back of the thigh towards the floor, so quads engaged. Start to reach the chest towards your foot to lean forward. Toe towards head, heel presses forward, firm the thigh, lean a little bit more forward. And then when you're ready, keep reaching forward as you bring hands to the floor, either beside your shin, ankle, foot, or beyond the foot. One more time, reach chest, heart towards foot, thigh towards the floor, and then fold and breathe. So what's your breath like? What sensations are you feeling in your body? What's changing? What's still there? Maybe physically, maybe mentally, like all the things. Forward folds are hard. Lift up halfway, gaze towards your foot, slide your hands towards your hips, and then press up. Reach the arms over your head, twist towards your left knee, reach your right heel forward. Take your left hand behind you, press the fingers down as you find a little bit more length on your right side. Keep the length and start to take the side of your body out over. Wrist, forearm, or elbow inside your knee. Press your elbow into your knee and rotate your head, heart, lungs towards the sky to the left. Left arm up, reach up, and then over. Reach the left hand up as if, as if you're reaching for something out of the sky. Lift up. Bring your left foot back to the ground. Right hand back to the block. Pitch your chest forward to lift your hips off the ground. Bend your right knee towards your chest and step the foot back into the lunge. Both hands to the ground. Step back to downward facing dog. Send your heels towards the ground. If the heels land, lift your toes. Shift forward to hands and knees. Cross your ankles, sit your hips back. Bring your feet out in front of you, Dandasana. Press your hands down. Pitch your head towards your feet. Lift your hips and suck them back. Lower down. Arms come over your head. Toes towards your head. Knees towards the floor. Exhale, fold. Again, if you need the blanket, use the blanket. Lift up halfway, stretch your head and your chest towards your toes. Reach your hands as far forward as you can. And then grab shins, ankles, or feet and fold. Gaze towards your toes. Reach your chest towards your toes. Lift your hands off the floor. Come up slowly. Coming all the way up. Take your hands behind your back, fingers pointing towards your feet. Bend your elbows back, lift your chest, and straighten your elbows. Point your toes forward. Press your feet into the floor and lift your hips. So after a lot of forward folding, this is going to feel really hard. So drag your heels back a little bit, lift your hips. One more breath. And exhale, lower down. Lift your feet, lift your legs, and lift your arms. So Navasana. Lift the top of your chest. Firm your thighs. Slow down your breath. Lower your legs. Lower your back. Bend your knees. Windshield wiper your knees side to side. The next time your knees rock to the right, lift your hips, shift them slightly to the left, and let your knees, with your feet wide, drop to the right. Take your right foot and lift it and place it on the outside of your left knee. Arms could either stretch out to the side, cactus, or just rest them on your belly. Release your right foot off the ground. Send your knees through center. As they come through center, shift the hips to the right and drop your knees to the left. You can lift your left foot and place it on the outside of your right knee. Lying down is not good. Release your foot off of your knee. Bring your knees back to center. Hug both knees in towards your chest. And then keep your feet together and open your knees wide and reach inside of your knees with your arms to grab the outer edges of your feet. Soles of the feet towards the sky. Happy baby. And if it's within your desire to test your hamstring in this open hip position, by all means, you can straighten one leg and then the other. Or move towards straight. And I can't show you this because I can't lay down. But basically, it's keeping your legs in happy baby. So you're still holding onto the edge of the feet, but you're straightening your legs. So Upavishta Konasana on your back. Bend both knees in towards your chest. Take one last hug of your knees towards your chest. I'm only sitting up, Carla, because I can't lie down. I'm going to cough. And then come into Shavasana. So Shavasana. Or if you choose Supta Baddha Konasana, we didn't do a lot. We did some. We did some external rotation. But make sure that if you are in that external rotation, you can fully relax. So whereas we've been playing with that edge of tension and non-tension throughout the class, at this time, we're looking for no tension. So if you feel tension in your hips, straighten your legs. And come back into the space of your body, just doing a quick inventory. How do things feel? Noticing your mind, what trip has gone on during this class. And then finally, settling on your breath. Natural, slow, unaltered rhythm of your breath. Allow your mind to come back into this present moment. Noticing the simple rise and fall of your breath. Your next inhale, reach your arms over your head and extend through heels or toes, finding inner body length. When you're ready, exhale, bending your knees, roll onto your side body. And take a moment just to observe. So forward folding can show up in your body in lots of different ways. So just kind of notice that. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, it's this concept of turning inward, of looking inward. And sometimes that in itself can also be hard. And then moving slowly, find your way into a seated posture. And bring your hands to meet at heart center, feeling as your hands touch yourself, meet self. Thumbs to your heart. And bow your head towards your heart, taking a moment to honor yourself, honor your practice, your body, your mind. And thank you so much for this exploration of the posterior chain. Hopefully